Alright guys, so I'm limited on time today, so I'm kind of just going to jump straight into it. Keep this one short, but I wanted to share how I was feeling about certain pairs going into the trading week and what I would be looking to trade for the most part. It always starts with the dollar for me, right? We swept the highs that I had marked out all the way from back in November. I personally was thinking we were going to eventually go up to this 101 level. But last week on the daily time frame it's not, I haven't flipped bearish by any means. On the higher time frame, like if I'm talking 6 month time frame, for example, absolutely I'm bearish. Take a look at that. I think with this rejection that we had early last year, I think we're gonna go lower. In the long run, interest rates are going to continue to come down, even though right now inflation is likely projected to stay higher for longer, given the geopolitical stuff, in the Middle East. That doesn't matter though. Right now, intra-week, right? I thought we were going to go up there, and structure is still intact on the daily. However, we did get a nasty rejection on Thursday, so this is going to be something for me to watch, right? If we continue to reject off of this candle and eventually close below this consolidation area, then yeah, absolutely, I'm thinking we're going to go back down, start forming the sell side of the curve, really. That would be the next thing that I'm looking at, right? So I'm leaning bearish, but I'm also being cautious because the structure is still intact, right? So that's specifically for the dollar. So that's going to be something to keep in mind. When it comes to trading it, I prefer euro this week over GU, right? If we take a look at this on the weekly time frame. The only thing I don't like is that we did make a new lower low, but what I'm thinking is this was really just a liquidity sweep of the range lows, right? And so if that is the case, I'm gonna look, if dollar does continue to go down, I'm eventually looking at this gap to trade. Now on the daily time frame, for me, this is stronger than GU right now, so that's something that I'm watching. You compare this chart with this one right here. I got a baby crying in the background, so give me one moment. All right, sorry about that. But yeah, anyway, what I was saying was, for me, GU just looks weaker than EU right now. So this really isn't something that I'm going to be looking at to trade in general. But actually, if we go to the futures, let's just take a look at how the currencies are looking. AU, I was bullish on, in Feb, was hoping for a continued run higher, but we kind of just fell into this range right now. And until there's a real clear show of strength, I'm really not looking to trade this. So the way I like to trade Forex, right? And I think I've said this a couple of times before, but I'll put it out here again, is that in deciding which pairs that I want to look at every week, I'm going to go to the currency futures and I'm going to try to see which one is strong and which one's weak, right? If something is choppy like this, I'm really not going to be looking to trade that pair. So I'm going to stay away from Australian dollar pairs just because it's not showing strength, it's not showing weakness, it's kind of just moving sideways. Ideally, you want to find a strong pair and a weak pair, and you want to pair those two together, right? And you want to stay away from the choppy pair or the choppy currency until, you know, there's a better directional bias, right? So even though I was bullish on this up until about, you know, a month ago, it's kind of just ranging here, so I'm going to stay away from this one. But just in case you're wondering, like, how am I making my decision? That's really my decision-making process. All right, NU, this one significantly weaker than the Australian dollar, which kind of sucked because, again, I actually wanted to see those highs taken when we pushed up here, but then the last 4 weeks it's just been straight back down. So, you know, that's that. And then you have this, right? The Japanese yen. I feel like you can kind of always count on this to stay weak. So, I mean, this is, why would I expect anything to change right now? We just broke down, made new lows. I want to see this level kind of continue to hold, and that's what happened this past week. We're gonna see how this week plays out. But yeah, given, you know, the rejection that we had on Friday, I'm gonna expect a continuation lower. So I'm gonna be bearish on the Japanese yen. If USD does decide to show some strength, right, and starts disrespecting this candle right here that I marked out. This, well, I didn't mark it out, but let me actually clear some of these out. So starts trading back into this engulfed candle and showing some strength, then actually UJ is going to be one of the pairs that I look at, because if the dollar is starting to show some strength and the yen is starting to get weaker, then obviously from a USD JPY I'm bullish, right? And so we'll see, you know, we'll see how it kind of goes during the week, but this is the level to watch for me, for the dollar index. That's just going to be something that I keep my eyes on. Euro futures, it's just really, you know, there's been so much chop in Forex since the last year. It's been incredibly difficult for a lot of the major pairs, at least for me. You know, I don't have all the experience in the world to navigate through chop. I personally like trending markets a lot more, but I guess we'll see how it plays out. Yeah, it's tough right now. I know I'm feeling the yen weak, the New Zealand dollar weak. US dollar, I'm kind of waiting to see how, you know, we open up at the start of the week, if there's any crazy news that causes it to gap up or whatever. But other than that, if the dollar does show weakness, then really the only pair that I'm interested in trading right now is the Euro USD. But if the dollar shows strength, then I'm going to be looking at UJ. That's going to be the main thing for me. Maybe the New Zealand dollar, US dollar. You know, maybe this pair right here, but we'll see. If this does show something, then, you know, I mean, the target right now is just going to be these lows, which is what, about 130 pips away. So there might be a trade there for the week, if I'm trading this pair. For EU, like I said, I'm probably going to be, if we can get up above this, I'm going to be targeting this gap right here, which is about 200 pips away. So that's that. And then UJ, well, these highs, right? If the dollar shows some strength, see if we can get back up to the 160s. So about, what's that, 270 pips away, something like that. So yeah, that's what it is for Forex for me for this week. We'll see, you know, how that plays out, but that's going to be something to those are the pairs I'm going to be keeping my eyes on. What's going on with, Bitcoin 74,000, right? This is still resistance for me. I've had this mark for the last several weeks now. There's just no, like, it's just one level, right? One level right now, and we've been rejecting from it 3 weeks in a row. And until we can reclaim this, it's hard for me to feel bullish on this at all. I'm still leaning towards lower, taking out some of these lows over here, going into the 50Ks. I'm not happy about it, just because of my spot exposure, but this is what I'm kind of keeping my eyes on. And this is what, you know, it's a bearish structure. I do believe we get one more leg down. Traditionally, we usually, like, we often get 3 legs. You know, you look at I'll do a different video with an example of that, but I like a 3-leg pattern more often than not. What's up, Jay? How you doing, buddy? Yeah, I'm actually going to be looking at oil next. We'll take a look and see how that plays out after crypto. But yeah, I'm still bearish on Bitcoin until 74K breaks. If it does, then I'm going to be targeting 93 next. So yeah, we'll see. Structure's bearish. We're breaking key levels, and we're still, respecting resistance. So no reason for me to feel like this is the bottom just yet. Right. Same with Ethereum. You see, Ethereum kind of walked right up into this fair value gap, tapped it, rejected, and yeah. But the major support is still this, right? This 1600 level, 15 to 1600 level. This is still huge. This is, I mean, at the end of the day, it's really going to depend on Bitcoin and how that goes. Yeah, there's really not much to say about a lot of these pairs. Look, Link is one of my favorite long-term holds, so it's definitely something that I'm watching. Whenever I see, like, Link is, there's a sign of strength somewhere, I'm going to look to increase my spot exposure on this. This is definitely one of my favorite ones. But, yeah, we'll see what happens. So, I had an interesting conversation, like, for me, like, I had an interesting conversation with my family members talking about oil, and whether it's, should it be bought, should it not be bought. I'm staying away from this, in terms of spot, not in terms of trading, but in terms of spot, just because, it's too dependent on war, and anything can happen anytime. And I feel like after this crazy pump where we basically had 100% move, right? If you're counting the wick, let's just make sure that was in fact the case. But here to here, yeah, that was like a 75% move on oil, right? And we're still up here, up 50% basically. For me, that's just too much of a premium to want to get in now. Right, and given how dependent it is on the war, if I don't know, things decided to, if they de-escalated the situation, then this is going to drop right away, and I'm going to be sitting on a 30%, 40% loss, waiting for God knows how long, right? So, not really a fan of this, but let's see. Wait, yeah, I was just one nasty wick. Right, and now we're kind of just chopping around sideways, I guess, waiting for updates. I don't know. This is kind of hard for me. We kind of do have this fair value gap over here, right, to watch out for in case price does want to go out, go back up higher if it needs a level to bounce off from. Personally, when there are these huge wicks like this, it doesn't make me flip bearish right away. That's not to say I'm bullish. But I think when you've got these really long wicks, people kind of expect a reversal right away. And while that does happen every now and then, in my opinion, a portion of the wick tends to get filled out before the actual move lower. So me personally, I do feel we could bounce off, maybe make a new higher, make a new high compared to this one over here. If we do get maybe like a reaction off of this fair value gap, that's probably what I'll be targeting. But this would be steep, right? Going back up to make new highs. That's $18 from the level that I have marked out. Let's see, what are you saying, Jay? Not sure if I would trade oil, but it seems at the moment if oil goes up, others are coming down, especially something like NASDAQ. Exactly, right? Because, I mean, oil going up is predicated upon the situation escalating, which would, in my opinion, mean that we're going to be pushing more and more towards a risk-off environment. So people are going to want to, get their money away from, NAS or the stock market in general. So yeah, like this literally is, this going up because of the situation in the Middle East would probably mean that the situation is worsening, and you know, stock market is going to go down, right? Because people want to take their money out, want to protect it, and whatnot. So yeah, but we'll see. I don't normally trade too much of oil anyway. I mean, you look at this, right? You've got the oil has these moments of really long chop. I know a couple of really good traders who do trade oil every now and then. Kudos to them. I don't. Maybe I should look at it better to see if I can get some. I know that some of them get really good moves. But yeah, for the most part, it's so hard for me to have a bias on this because on a fundamental level, I think oil is cyclical as well. Seasonal and well, no, sorry, not seasonal, cyclical. But for the most part, it's so hard to have a bias given this type of price action, right? And then you get these insane moves like this that usually happen because of some unforeseen fundamental reason, right? And I don't want to be caught off guard by that and have to depend on a huge amount of luck to make money. Just not for me, right? I'd just much rather trade something that I feel is much more manageable on a technical level. That's my opinion on oil. And then of course gold. That's my favorite, right? Let's take a look at gold really quickly. I've said this over and over again for as long as I've been doing live streams the last 2 months. I've been wanting lower, right? And by the way, this is a classic example of what I meant by the wick, right? People think that a reversal's coming, price goes up, fills in some of it. Or they see this and they think a reversal's coming, now price comes down, filling most of it up already. So yeah, but I've been saying this for the last several weeks. Push comes to shove, I'm leaning towards lower first for gold. So I think I want to see us bottom out at about 3,900, which would be this level, right? Is that going to happen? I don't know. In terms of spot, I continue to try and dollar cost average because gold has shown time and time again that in the long run, it's not really a mistake to hold on to it, right? So yeah, but as for trading, I mean, my bias has to be bearish, right? To take out these lows first. We even have a gap on a daily time frame, I think below it, right there. This one, 4,300. So that's going to be my next target as well. We'll see if we can make it down there. But yeah, I want to see us make a new lower low. And then maybe start to kind of range and reaccumulate. And I'm hoping the bottom for that is going to be about 3,900, right? Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what price action we get that allow us to take advantage of that bias. But you know, let's yeah, on the lower time frame, I mean, we just made a lower high into this fair value gap. Beautiful rejection. Move lower. Yeah, this has just been clean, right? Low, lower, high, lower, low, lower, high, lower, lower. Now we've swept that low. So even silver, I don't think downside is done yet. We got, yeah, these lows. I mean, you look at silver. Silver didn't even make it nearly as high as gold did, right? From that initial dump back in late January, silver never made it back up. It just swept these local highs, rejected, and then it's been a straight move lower since. Yeah, and for silver, I'm hoping we sweep these lows and then we kind of start to bottom out around the $55 region, right? So it's going to be above these highs. So that I know it's a huge zone, is that $50 to $60 region, but this really is the level that I'm hoping silver kind of begins to bottom out. Could it go lower? Absolutely, right? We could be entering a bear market. Who knows? I'm not trying to predict that far out, but for now, I think right, I've been bearish on gold, so automatically I'm bearish on this as well, and I'm thinking we sweep those lows next. You know, and then yeah, but for me, just because of my spot exposure, I wouldn't want to see it go too far down. I would like to see it reset around here. I've mentioned this, like the reason why, one of the main reasons I was leaning bearish was because when you have these crazy run-ups in assets, and I've seen this with Bitcoin time and time again, right? You don't get a big dump and bounce right away. Like that's not that's very rare, right? And I think sure it's a great situation to see, but because it it can really chop traders out, and I don't know, you get a lot of you get these massive liquidation events, and sometimes it can be entertaining to watch. But in general, you know, when you get a big dump or a big move like this one over here, you don't reverse right away. And oftentimes what needs to happen is there needs to be a reset. Like if people are still euphoric and haven't panicked nearly enough, then the trend lower is usually going to continue on for a little longer until people get fearful and eventually indifferent, where they just stop paying attention to it. Right now, sure, I have more experience seeing that in Bitcoin than I do in this, but I mean, you could say the same thing happened with gold up until 22, right? When the fundamentals kind of favored it, right? Gold was in this 3-year long range all the way over here. This one, yeah, let me go to the weekly. This one, right? So we had, oh, wait, no, sorry, not that one. This one. So from 2020 all the way till October 2023, right? You've got this just sideways action. And people basically got indifferent. Same thing happened here in 2013, 2018. You had this 5-year range, right? So you get these insane rallies, and that's when people get super happy about it. They want to buy in, and then you get this real big move lower until it forms a reaccumulation phase, right, for the next leg higher. And it's not going to happen until people just start to grow indifferent. And same thing happens with Bitcoin. That's why everybody just doesn't really ever see the pump coming, right? Because they've grown indifferent. And yeah, so I think we're due for that, given this insane rally for gold and for silver. I think the hype is still really, really high, even though we had this crazy wick from 2 months ago. So yeah, I think we could continue lower, but like I said, I mean, 3,900 for me, that's going to be such a crucial level to watch. I really hope that is respected. As a gold silver, for me, I'm going to be watching it regardless, because I'm looking at them every week anyway. But like I said, for Forex, I'm going to really be paying close attention to how the dollar opens up, because that's going to really show me whether I want to be looking for like if dollar is going to be shooting for the highs, which I mentioned. Let me show you guys one more time. For these highs, the 101 highs, or if it's going to start the sell side of the curve after sweeping these local highs instead, right? I mean, at the end of the day, dollar could just continue to range. It's been in this range since May of last year anyway, so there's no reason why that cannot continue. So it's definitely going to be something to watch. But yeah, I think at the start of the week we'll probably get a better idea. And like I said, if we start to see some strength here, then I'm personally going to lean towards going long on UJ, just because, well, the Japanese yen continues to show weakness. No reason for me to feel like it's going to bounce anytime soon. And just by the way, just because I say I'm going to be watching these pairs doesn't mean that I can't change my bias midweek, right? I think one of the key things about being a trader is that you have to be adaptable to what the market shows you. You can't stick to your bias and be rigid about it, because that's a recipe for disaster. The markets are fluid. So when you recognize that you're wrong, you have to be able to change your bias accordingly if you want to take advantage of this new foresight that you had, that, hey, I'm wrong, like maybe I should change my bias and try to profit off the new move now. Something along those lines. If you just continue to stick to your bias, you're either not going to get trades or you're going to take the wrong trades. So yeah, definitely for me, like, this is without a doubt not financial advice anyway. Trading has a lot of risks. Do your own research, consult your own financial advisor, because I'm not one. But yeah, my bias tends to shift midweek, because it all comes down to what the markets show you, right? And now more than ever, we live in a time of extreme uncertainty. So you're waking up most days to crazy news or more gaps that require you to adapt. So yeah, if this shows strength, UJ is what I'm looking at, unless of course the Japanese yen starts to show strength out of nowhere. Then of course I got to reevaluate, right? but that hasn't happened historically speaking for a long time. If this does show weakness though, then EU is the one for me. The wild card that I will be looking at is the New Zealand dollar USD. Most of the other currency futures are just really choppy, so I'm not really interested in crosses right now. And then gold and silver, yeah, I'll be watching intra-week. Bitcoin, the level is 74K. Still watching that. Until it breaks, there's just, I can't, at this level. It's been tested 3 times now. Weekly resistance. That's the only level I've had marked out in my chart for the last few days. Last few weeks, actually. Because that's really it. Until that breaks, I'm thinking we go down. Make a new low, right? I would like to see another drive lower. So yeah. All right, well, I hope that was helpful, guys. That's going to be what I look at going into this week. I'm going to end it right here just because I got to run. But yeah, hopefully that was helpful. Cheers.